This lesson is over negative and zero exponents. The rule for zero exponents is probably the easiest rule. Any number to the zero power is equal to 1. So, 5 to the zero power is equal to 1. 27 to the zero power is equal to 1. And even x to the zero power, it doesn't matter what x is because no matter what number it is, it's equal to 1. The only exception is that for this rule, the number cannot be 0. So the base cannot be 0. You can't have 0 to the zero power. That doesn't work. But any other number besides 0 is equal to 1. The rule for negative exponents is that we use the inverse. So inverse of the first example problem here means 6 to the negative 3 power. So the inverse would be 1 over 6 to the third power. Once we put 1 on the top, that negative sign goes away. So just 1 over 6 to the third power. Same for the second one. A to the negative fifth would be 1 over a to the fifth power. For the last one, 1 over 5 squared, or 5 to the second power, if we were to do the opposite and write it using a negative exponent, instead of 1 being on the top, the 5 would just now be the whole number, 5 to the negative 2 power. Those two expressions are equal at this point. The common mistake when we're doing negative exponents is that you interpret that negative sign as part of your answer. So the common mistake would be 6 to the negative 3 power. You would think, okay, that's just 6 times 6 times 6, which is 216. And not positive 216, it'd be negative 216. That's the common mistake. This is not true. This does not work. You have to remember that the negative exponent is equal to the inverse. When asked to write each of these using a negative exponent, first we have to think what each of them are using an exponent in general. So 1 over 36, you have to think, okay, what number using an exponent will equal 36? Well, I know that 1 over 6 squared equals 1 over 36, or 1/36, because 6 squared is 36. So using a negative exponent, now all I have to do is get rid of that 1 and make this a 6 to the negative 2 power. Same with this one, 1 over 1,000. I know 1,000 is going to be some kind of exponent that has a base of 10. So I know it's going to be 1 over 10 to the something power. 10 to the second power is 100, so 10 to the third power would be 1,000. Now, writing with a negative exponent, it would just be 10 to the negative 3 power. So we're just kind of thinking the opposite when it's asking us to write it with a negative exponent. Now we're going to combine all the rules we've learned so far to simplify each expression. So the rule for multiplying with the same base is that you add the exponents. So this would be 5 to the 3 plus negative 5. So once I add them together, 5 to the 3 plus negative 5, 3 plus negative 5 would be negative 2. Now, we really should not leave our answers in terms of negative exponents unless it asks for it. So we need to turn this into a positive exponent. So in order to do that, we have to put 1 over 5 squared. Sometimes it will ask you to multiply it out. Sometimes it will ask you to leave it with exponents. So if we were to multiply this out, 1 over 5 squared, it would be 1 over 25. That is how the first one works. The second one is division. So we have to remember the rule for division is to subtract the exponents. So this would equal w to the negative 1 minus a negative 4. Lots of minus signs there. You have to be careful. So now I'm just going to subtract minus a negative becomes a positive. So this becomes a positive. Negative 1 plus 4 is equal to 3. So we would get w to the third power. We don't have to change it because the 3 is positive, it's not negative, so that would be our final answer. Please complete these practice problems in your notebook. Make sure they're on the left-hand side. You need to remember all the rules we've learned so far in order to complete them.